So, good day. Ito po ang aming presentation ng Chapter 4 at Chapter 5. Chapter 4, Presentation, Interpretation, and Analysis of Data. This chapter presents the result, analysis, and interpretation of data collected by the researchers in order to answer the questions of the study. The figure 1.1, graph-based result for advantages and disadvantages of virtual class due to COVID-19 pandemic. So, ito po yung chart. So, Table 1.1 questions for advantages and disadvantages of virtual class due to COVID-19 pandemic. So, ito po yung mga questions. 5 questions po yan. The figure 1.1 shows the result of the questions in the table 1.1. Based on the answers gathered from the respondents is which first question they agreed with. The second question remained balanced and agreed with them. But the third question is whether the virtual learning mode helps them to manage their time. Here, there was a response that did not agree and also agree. The agree response to the fourth question is high because they are only at home and don't spend money to enter, but there are still a few who do not agree. The response to the fifth questions remained neutral, but the increase in the number of responses that agree for it still took the lead. So, sa figure 1.2 po, mag-explain po ay si Carlos Bernales.
Figure 1.2. Graph-based result for personal health of the respondents working while studying in the midst of pandemic. Table 1, ayan po yung graph ng result. Then, table 1.2, question for personal health relate. Personal health of the respondents working while studying in the midst of pandemic. Then, yan po yung questions. 9 questions. Figure 1.2 show the result of the questions in the table 1.2. Even COVID-19 do not notice so much at this moment, and most are no longer afraid. Based on the answer we obtained from the responses are still agreed according to the first question and a few disagreed. Most respondents disagreed in the second question and others were they were affected or had COVID-19, so others agreed to this. They continued to work despite how they felt and even when they recovered while others stopped working. They also became balanced in their lives such as sleeping, eating, resting, handling stress, and even though they are working and studying at the same time. But others seem to have difficulty balancing their health because of their situation. And next naman po si Kusi.
Sunod naman po itong figure 1.3, yung graph-based result, the study difficulties of the respondents while working in the mid of pandemics. Ito po yung graph niya. Then po yung sa question po, ito po. Then, naging po, show the result of the question in the table 1.3. The answer here show how the respondent had difficulty in their study while they are working. Based on the answer gathered by the researcher, most of the respondents were still able to pay attention and focus on their study while they were working, but another were not. All respondents have proper device to access or participate in the online classes, but even though they all have adequate access to online platform and most are able to handle their study while they are working. They also need help from other people and understanding of their situation from their teacher. Because their situation is not easy, also based on their response, they also experience that they want to stop working to focus on their study, but they cannot do due to the lack of finance support. Sunod naman po sa point 1.4 IC4.
Figure 1.4, graph-based result for job difficulties of the respondents while studying in the midst of pandemic. Table 1.4, questions for job difficulties of the respondents while studying in the midst of pandemic. Ito po yung mga question. Figure 1.4 shows the results of the questions in the table 1.4. It shows what the respondents experience in their work while they are studying. Their responses reflect their work life as they align their studies with it. Most of them have a boss that understands this situation, and others do not, but even all of them will not be scolded or shouted at even they are trying to work on their studies while they are on their job hours. Even though most of them experience very tired after work and sometimes want to give up to study, they still do not do it because of their life situation and still give more time and attention to their studies. So, yun lang po sa chapter 4. Next po ay chapter 5. Babasahin po siya ni Carlos Bernales.
Chapter 5. Summary of findings, conclusion, and recommendations. This chapter presents the summary of findings, conclusion drawn, and recommendation offered. Summary of findings. Based on the analysis and interpretation of data, the findings are hereby summarized. 1. Advantages and disadvantages of virtual class due to COVID-19 pandemic. It is more helpful for working students to have virtual classes brought by COVID-19 because it reduces their daily expenses and because they do not have to go to school to attend class. It has also been an advantage for them to be able to work, although they did not agree to manage their time because they work together while studying. It helped them to have a job to support their financial needs.
Number 2. Personal health of the respondent. Working while studying in the midst of pandemic. Their situation during the pandemic where their education and work required them to go hand in hand from their dreams, goes hand in hand with their personal health and how they took care on it is been their order. Even though their situation is difficult, many of them still do not forget to take care and give time to themselves. Despite their enhancing situation and most of all, they don't think about giving up.
So, number 3 is study difficulties of the respondents while working in the midst of pandemic. Education is the key to success, but how can you achieve success if you cannot study due to lack of funds? Students have sufficient devices to access the online platforms used in online classes, although some of them find it difficult to handle their studies properly while they are working. Many of them are still able to balance their studies with their work. Despite this, they all need help and guidance as well as understanding for their teachers.
Number 4. Job difficulties of the respondents while studying in the midst of pandemic. Students have different bosses, situation, and reason why they work and study at the same time. Some of them are not fortunate enough to have a boss who understands their situation, but some of them also understand. And also, the important thing is that they are not treated badly like shouted while they are working, even if they try to insert the study during work hours.
Conclusion. Based on the findings and following conclusion are drawn. Having online classes brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic has had a big impact. This situation has been an advantage for the student to be able to work full-time while they are studying. It also helped them to balance their time and reduce daily expenses. Despite this, it also had a disadvantage from the student because they find it difficult to focus on their study while they are work and they also find it difficult to do schoolwork due to fatigue in their work. Some are balanced but some are not. It also did not have a big impact when it comes to their personal health because the student also took care of their health.
Recommendations. In the light of findings, the following recommendations are hereby offered. 1 is working students should know how to balance their time. 2. Working students should ask for at least a little help from people close to them such as classmates, friends, family, relatives, or teachers.
3. A comprehensive policy practice and new research summarizing the state of knowledge and offering practical evidence-based recommendation must be established for further consciousness in discipline for the students. 4. The proposed action plan is recommended for implementation. And 5. Parallel studies along the line using other variables such as parents and teachers' perception may be conducted.
The last is the bibliography. We include this our references. So, yun lamang po at ang member po namin ay ako po si John Raven Poro, ang isa po ay si Carlos Bernales, at ang isa po ay si Jefferson Cusi. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat.